Company culture is a very trend topic these days. Job seekers, they would like to know what the company culture is. They do their research. They do a company website on social media. They want to know where they're going to work. And other side, for the employer, they also want to create this great culture which will attract talent and come work for them. So in your experience, Brad, what do you think companies should do to create that great culture so that they can attract job seekers and also tell a story in their job description of their culture?
Sure. So first thing I'm going to say is I'm going to back up and say it's more important today than ever. When you look at low unemployment rates, employees have choices.
Yes.
And if you want to be an employer of choice, if you want to be an employer that's attracting people, then you need to have an incredible culture and you need to have fantastic leadership practices. So to me, it's so important. In order to do that, I think a couple things is we have to be willing to acknowledge that all too often what is an espoused or stated culture is very different than what actually happens. And when you don't have alignment between what you say and what you do, things fall apart. And you can't define a great culture and then not live it, because then it doesn't exist. So the first thing is we need to define something that's realistic. And maybe there's a stretch in there, but it's realistic, something that really represents who we are. That's the first thing. Second thing I'm going to say is that what we do and what we say each and every day is what creates, sustains, builds our culture. Not what we put on a wall or not what's on a placard. So in order for culture to be maintained, we need to be talking about it. We need to be hiring for it. We need to be managing towards it. So that means that our hiring practice needs to change. We need questions that reflect cultural fit. We need our performance management process to change, because we need to have ongoing performance conversations that are reflective not just about the work, but how we do the work and how that relates to the culture. And then third, when we meet, and I think this is most important, every time I meet with companies and I talk to them about their meetings and I ask them to describe their meetings, tell me what you talk about. What does a meeting look like and sound like? They spend the entire time talking about two things: updates, which they could email each other, seems like a waste of time, and the second one is problems. So you end up having a culture that's based on problems and boring people to death. All right, that's what meetings, and people are in more meetings now than they've ever been. So we believe that meetings should be short. We have a very clear agenda that we have in there. And one of the things that we have in the agenda is a short 5 to 10 minute culture building discussion or activity that you always include in the meetings, whether you meet daily, weekly, or monthly, because you want to reinforce that culture. I'll give you a great example. ALSAC St. Jude is a fundraising arm for St. Jude. You know St. Jude, the hospital?
I know.
Okay, so when they have their meetings, they start their meetings each time the same way. And this is very interesting. Because they're a fundraising arm, they can become focused solely on money. They have to raise over $1 billion a year. I mean, it is a money focus, right?
Yes.
But they don't want it to be about the money. They want it to be about what they're doing. They want it to be about the passion about curing cancer in kids. So every time they meet, executive team and others, they start the meeting with a patient and or their family sharing the story about how St. Jude has impacted them. And that keeps them grounded and focused on the right things. So we need to keep ourselves grounded and focused on the right things. And we should do that in a way that is repetitive, in a way that is part of the fabric of who we are. What better part of our fabric, cultural fabric, do we have than meetings? We have a pace, a consistency that we follow every week, every day, every month. We're meeting. Why not build our culture in those meetings on a regular basis?
I like the idea of having a cultural talk in every meeting. And I agree with you. Sometimes all our meeting is, this is what we did, this is what we discussed. Okay, what are we trying to solve a problem? So everyone is talking the same way. But also, you mentioned also that regarding the culture fit, And I feel that a lot of job seekers these days, sometimes they get this feedback from recruiters, oh, you're very great, but your culture is not fit, or something like that. So what does that really mean, culturally not fit?
Sure. Well, I'm going to answer that two ways. If you're a legitimate employer doing the right thing, what it means is different than an employer that is discriminating. And you have both out there, unfortunately. Sometimes it is code for, we're not going to hire you because of part of your background, right? And that's not a good thing. That's just not a good thing. We should not do that. Most of the time what it means is this: we hire people for technical skills, but we fire them for performance skills. Let me define what that means. Yeah. Technical skills are things we learn in school. Yeah. I learned to be an accountant. I learned to be an electrician. I learned, right? Those are the things. Yeah. Performance skills are skills that you learn along life's way. So it's all about things like, I learned to be organized. I learned how to communicate with people. I'm a good team member, right? Those kinds of things. They're habit structures that you build over a long period of time. Some people have certain habit structures and other people have other habit structures. If I grew up and I focused on jobs where I don't interact with people, I did file clerks, I did computer programming, and then I want to go work in a company where I have to deal with people, and they're a very gregarious company, then I'm going to interview and I'm going to do poorly because I don't have that performance skill. I don't have the ability to interact with people in that way because I spent my entire life working behind the scenes, not interacting with people. So when you talk about cultural fit, you're talking about things like, I hired the accountant because they were a great accountant. I fired them because nobody on the team wants to work with them. Cultural fit is the glue that holds everyone together. It's not the content of the job. It's how we behave that drives whether or not we are successful. Doesn't mean we're the same, just means that we have some ingredients that can work well together. So a good example would be inclusion. Yeah. If I say that I want to be a part of a company, but I'm very good at interacting with only certain types of people, and the company hires all different types of people, and I can't change my style to address different folks, I'm not going to fit the culture because I'm going to limit who I can build connections with. I'm going to limit the productivity on my team. I'm going to limit the productivity and success of the organization because I'm used to working with a certain type of person, and now I've got to work with lots of different type of people. And you can't train for that very easily. Can you train for it? Yes, but it takes time, it takes money, it takes a lot of energy. So it's easier to hire people that have cultural fit and train them on the content. Unless it's a very particular job with a specialized skill set, it's just easier. You're looking for a great attitude, and you're looking for someone who can function on this team very well and relate to how you do business. That's what you're looking for.